Love this podcast? Support it and sponsor today. Simply head to ozcastnetwork.com for details.
Bank of the West is offering the 1% for the Planet checking account. It gives back to the planet at no cost to you, and there's no monthly service charge with any deposit per statement. Only from Bank of the West. Learn more at bankofthewest.com/1%. Additional conditions apply. Member FDIC.
The Bachelorette
and Friends.
From first love to happy ever after.
What's that?
From dating to dick pics.
Oh my. Oh no!
The Bachelorette and Friends. Oh, I love a good dick.
This podcast contains sexual references, coarse language, and adult themes from the beginning and throughout. It is not recommended for listeners under the age of 15.
Hello, beautiful people, and welcome to the Bachelorette and Friends. I'm your host, Carla Anita Matiazzo, and today's guest is Deanna Kangas. She is the founder of Voicehouse. She's a professional performer, voice coach, speaker, animal activist, and vegan. Welcome, Deanna. Thanks for coming on the podcast.
I'm so excited. Thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome. Should we share with the listeners how we know each other?
Yes. Oh, my goodness. Well, it's been, when did we meet? I think it was 2006.
Yeah.
Yep, 2006. So, I don't know, you do the maths. How many years that is?
Don't ask me to do maths. I can't do maths.
A long time. We met in university. We were both at the Elder Conservatorium of Music here in Adelaide.
Yes.
And we happened to be, I feel like we were the only two people like us in our course, so to speak. I guess we kind of we related to each other. We were the two Italian girls in the course.
Oh man, yeah. I remember, did you end up doing, is it Die Fledermaus, that German opera? Were you part of that opera?
No.
No, okay.
No, I finished after the first year because all the classical music was new to me going to university, and although I appreciated the foundations that I learnt from it, it wasn't.
It's tough, isn't it?
Yeah,
it
wasn't for me.
Yeah, it's a tough genre, definitely. Like, there's people just assume because you've got a mouth and you've got vocal cords that you can sing. That's not always.
No, and different styles.
Yeah, correct.
You know. Although, to be honest with you, like, classical is actually something I quite enjoy, and it came like easily to me, the style specifically. I just didn't enjoy that type of performance. Over the years, I've drawn the conclusion that I am very much a performer over even being a singer.
Yeah,
and so for me, a lot about what I'm doing on stage plays a big part in it.
Yeah, and the way that you engage the audience and the vibe and the energy and all that. Yeah, definitely. So to bring the listeners up to speed, the podcast is based on the premise of my award-winning cabaret show, The Bachelorette, There's Always a Catch, where I talk and sing about my first love to what I thought was happy ever after and everything in between. So let's start at first crushes, Dee. Can you remember your first crush?
Look, I mean, we both came from, European backgrounds. I don't remember all that much about yours, but mine was rather strict, for, lack of a better word. So crushes was something that was really hard for me because I wasn't really allowed to have crushes. But I remember in primary school, I think the first crush I ever had was actually Zach Hansen. Like, let's be honest, I loved Hansen so much. Zach Hansen.
Right. I was Isaac. I was the eldest brother. There was something.
Really?
And it's funny though, even with Backstreet Boys, there was something even about Kevin.
No. I was like,
I think it was the age thing for me.
Carter. I was the pretty boys.
I was like, okay, who's the oldest in this band? That's the one I want. I don't know why. That's so
really. Yeah, see, no, whereas I liked the pretty boys. So yeah, Zach Hansen for sure. Backstreet Boys definitely would have been Nick Carter. But when Aaron Carter came along, it was like, we'll move over Nick because it's Aaron.
Look, I think you should have stayed with Nick. Like, Aaron's a very interesting kettle of fish now, I'd say.
He is, isn't he? Yes. Yeah, a little few, different variety.
Yeah. So different. Yeah.
So yeah, I think that, I mean, there was probably crushes in primary school for like different boys and things like that. But thinking like I was really into my musicians.
Yeah. I feel you on that. I feel you. Totally feel you. So I can totally resonate with the whole boys are out of bounds thing with coming from an Italian background.
Yes.
It was very much, as you're the eldest, aren't you?
Yes.
Yeah. So we're both the eldest, girls in Italian families there. Look, my parents were relaxed in a lot of ways, not traditional in a lot of ways, but then when it came down to this kind of stuff, couldn't even talk to them about it.
Nope.
It was, you had to focus on what you were doing. Education was the important thing, which was good, but, there was no room for anything else.
I don't think my dad could cope with the fact that boys existed in my reality. I mean, I went to a co-ed primary school, but then I went to a single-sex high school. So I was really surrounded by females, and he was very, very sensitive to the subject specifically. So, yeah, it was something that just was never spoken about and kept quiet and hidden away, locked with the key.
Boys, like my dad can't even, if somebody says the word sex and my dad's around, I look at his face and it's always the same expression. Even now, he can't handle it. He just fucking can't handle it. So I always find that quite amusing. Yeah, it's interesting. I don't know, maybe it's a cultural thing. Italian fathers really, it's too much for them to think about their principesses,
And I love, if anybody else listening is from a similar kind of background, give us a shout out on social media or something, because we feel you. And what's interesting, I feel like as though later in life that doesn't actually serve them, because you always make up for what you don't get as a child, right?
Yeah, correct. And I think even now, like if I was to be dating anyone, which I'm fucking not, but if I was to be dating anybody, I don't tell my dad shit about that stuff unless I know I'm going to marry this person. Dad's not going to be informed because I know it's not going to fly. Yeah. It's not worth it.
It's not worth the hassle. I feel like, I'm in a very interesting situation, which obviously we'll get to later, which is being divorced, for a couple of years. So I haven't gotten to the point where I've had to bring somebody new into the family. The first, boy I ever brought into the family, I did marry.
Yeah, right.
So I haven't been down that road yet. So
well, that would be thing.
Yes, I think it will be interesting. No, I actually think my parents were being chilled about it now because they know what I've been through. So
yeah, and your little sister's married too, isn't she?
She is. Yes, she got married. She got married the same month my ex-husband and I decided to separate.
Oh fuck!
I know, and so we held off from telling everybody for about 4 months after that because we really didn't want to steal their sunshine. Yeah.
Oh, that's very considerate.
Yeah, it was tough. It was one of the most unique and interesting periods of my life that I learned a lot from, but I hope to never be in again.
Yeah, fuck no. So, yeah, and you can not answer this if you don't want to. Were you guys still living together for those 4 months then? If you hadn't told,
yes.
Okay. Wow,
yes, we
that would have been hard.
It was. Look, I mean, it was a mutual separation. So I'm fortunate enough that we still have a relationship and we share a dog. So, we have mutual custody of the dog. And it was just something that after being with someone for 14 years, so we had been together for a long time, married for 8 of the years and together for 14, we just got to a certain point in time where we had grown up together and then we had grown apart. Yeah. And so for us, it was still very, very difficult, but we're amicable. So living together wasn't too much of an issue. But it was more of the issue of people asking questions about things that I couldn't really answer. Like, when are you going to have babies? And
you're like, well, we're not.
We're not even, in the same bedroom right now, but I can't tell you that. So it was just,
that's tough.
Yeah.
So how did your parents respond to you announcing that you guys are separating? Were they hoping that you'd get back together?
Look, I don't know if this was a good or a bad idea, but it was what was felt right at the time. By the time we had announced that we were separated, we had really been through that process and that conversation for quite some time, like over a year at that point in time, of back and forward. And so we were at the point where when we told everyone, like, we were done. Done. We had tried separating, getting back together, multiple different things, going away for a bit, coming back to each other, all the things that you might perhaps do. So the most difficult part for me was them being at the early stages of dealing with the concept that the marriage was ending, and me being at the later stages of it and wanting everybody to catch up. Mm-hmm. So there was lots of, people wanting to help and saying, why don't you try this and why don't you try that? But we actually already had done it a lot in private.
Yeah.
We didn't tell everyone, we're having some problems, because I'm not one to want influence on my decisions. I'm very much about, doing what's in alignment with my truth and my heart, even if it's not easy.
Yeah. Yeah, I need to do that. I'm very much... like, I process stuff, and then there's a couple of people that I will call and be like, okay, this is what's happened. This is how I feel. What do you think about it? I think I need to start learning to just trust what my instinct is and not so much, call on others. It's a good thing.
Yes. One of my mentors, a long time ago, quite some years ago, gave me some really good advice, which was, don't outsource your decisions.
Yep. Okay.
And so I don't just apply that to business, because this was a business/personal mentor, but I apply it to everything. And that's the only way that we kind of find, like, we can come to the decision of what's true to us, is when we sit with what we want to do, even though, because at the end of the day, like, the people that you're outsourcing your decisions with, you kind of know what they're going to say to you.
Yeah.
They're just reaffirming in your head. So if you can get to a point where, regardless of all of the recommendations, you can sit with what feels right for you. And even if you make the worst possible decision and talking to them would have been a better thing to do, you're still making a decision in alignment with what you need to go through in order to learn what you need to learn, because we're all so unique, and it's kind of a rite of passage. We have to go through certain situations. We've all got different journeys.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yes, we do. Yes, I totally agree with that. Totally agree. Thank you for that little wisdom. I'm going to take that. That's going to shift some of my perspective. That's really good. I like that a lot.
No problem. We'll probably come up with more as we go along, so you can call me out when you need to too.
Guess what, lovers? The Catchalorette, There's Always a Catch, is back on stage in 2021. First up, The Mill, Adelaide Fringe Festival, from the 18th to the 28th of February, 7:30. Tickets on sale at the Adelaide Fringe website.
I would imagine that going to an all-girls school makes it easier in some respects to have higher and healthier standards and not settle just because, or is that assumption incorrect? Because you're not... like, at an all-girls school, you don't have boys at you all the time, every day, and you can pick, like, you can date that one. Oh, yeah, he's not my type. So I'm not going to date him anymore. I'm going to date that person.
Oh, interesting. Look, I mean, for me, going to an all-girls school was probably the right decision. I noticed just how much more I focused on school being in that environment. I am someone who's very easily distracted by the male species. So this is something that I've come to peace with over the years. I am a woman who appreciates men very much. But no, to be honest with you, look, it was good in terms of for the schoolwork, for the focus, yes. But I mean, the minute that the distraction was available, like we welcomed in the distraction as much as, probably worse than anyone else. I remember a specific incident at school. It was really funny, actually. There, when I was in year 12, one of my fellow students in the year 12 common room managed to burn microwave popcorn and set the common room on fire.
Great. That's what you do.
It was, the whole school got evacuated, and there happened to be firefighters, obviously, and there was this one young, gorgeous firefighter. So all of the girls were getting out, like this was the early days of camera phones, like getting out their phones like, oh my goodness. And within hours of being let back into the school, there was posters everywhere with pictures of this young firefighter, like, good work, girls, we should burn popcorn more often.
That's fucking excellent. I love that.
So I don't know if it made it any more of a healthy relationship, to be honest with you, no. I obviously, throughout that time I had very minimal interaction with males, I mean, apart from my male cousins. I wasn't really allowed to even go out with them and their friends, though. Like that was also an off bounds. I was a go to Nonna's house, stay at home.
Gotcha.
I remember getting my license at 16, Carla, and I wasn't allowed to go anywhere. So I used to sit in the driveway on a Saturday night with the music on in my car, because I had a car, and just be in the driveway in my car because I wasn't allowed to do much.
Oh my God, that's so shit. That's so shit. That would have driven me nuts. As soon as I had my license, I was out of there. That would have driven me nuts.
I had until I got married, my curfew was 10:30.
Sorry,
like,
what?
I was like, we're talking, I was one of old school. I know. My husband and I were never allowed to like sleep over or go away together or anything like that before I got married. I mean, I got engaged at 22, married at 10 days after my 23rd birthday, so quite young. But yeah, look, it was, but in that time, I did work in retail. I got my retail job just before I turned 14, the minute I could, and it wasn't because I had to work. My dad didn't really want me to work. I was taken care of, but I wanted to just be able to get out of the house. It was social for me.
Yeah.
So I worked in retail, and so through there I probably met lots of like boys, and at school socials and events and things like that, we did a lot with, male schools as well. And
what school was it? What school did you affiliate with? Was it Saints Boys?
No, so I was a Loretto girl, and we was Ross Trevor.
Oh, Ross Trevor.
Rossi boys. So I do remember having, like, in high school, my first big crush was on a year 12 prefect. I was in year 9 or 10 at the time. Year 9, and now he was year 11. Yeah. And I did end up taking him to my formal.
Oh, look how did that
which
go?
Was it was an elaborate story that facilitated that. It was planned for months.
This is why, and I can relate to that so much. This is why when I have kids one day, which I hope I get to have at least one, I don't want to be that parent. Like, I know that I had to make up stories to facilitate scenarios like that. I would rather my child come to me and be like, hey, Mum, so I like this guy or I like this girl or whatever, and this is what we're doing. I'd rather know than them have to go anxious, make up a story, make sure their story sticks and stays consistent throughout the period that it needs to. Oh, mamma mia. Yeah, it's too much.
No, because, I mean, later in life, again, this is what associates, like all of the many different versions of trauma that we can have regarding love not being a good thing, or love coming with fear attached to it, or anxiety attached to it, guilt attached to it.
Yeah.
Exactly. So you spend a lifetime working through those attachments and blockages before you can actually truly feel and appreciate the love itself.
Yeah, no shit. Like, I think I was in my, I want to say mid-20s, mid-ish 20s, and I had only started to recognise that I had guilt issues attached to sex.
Wow.
And it was a light bulb moment. I remember going for a walk with one of my ex's friends' wives at the time, and we were just talking about a whole heap of stuff, and I was unpacking, after sex, there was a long period there where I would just cry after sex, and I couldn't articulate why. I couldn't work out what the deal was. And then on this hike, I can't remember the exact scenario, but the light bulb just went off, and I went, oh, fuck, this isn't actually my problem. The guilt that I'm carrying from this is a cultural thing, and I need to let this fuck go. Yeah, it's interesting because, of course my dad never spoke to me about sex ed stuff. Mum gave me a book, and that was it. That was the whole.
Wow.
I didn't get any conversations or anything. I remember once I wanted to go on the pill, and thank fuck I didn't, because the pill is real bad.
Horrendous.
So bad. But I was in year 9 and I was dating a year 12 at the time. And we never ended up having sex anyway when we were at school.
Yes.
But just not having, like, your mother being able to rationally sit down and talk to you about the pros and cons of stuff without any guilt, bias, or without any shame or judgment. Because both my parents, obviously Italian, their parents were from Italy. My mum was the eldest child. My dad was a middle child. But they definitely did things the old school way. Like they didn't live together until they got married, all that kind of stuff.
Yes.
And sex wasn't spoken about. It wasn't a topic, and then that was passed down. So I really hope, and that's so right, the different levels of trauma, Dee, with what you were saying. Culturally, Italians are passionate people. So the fact that there's this underlying guilt that is passed down from generation to generation to the daughters, like it's completely different for guys.
Yes, this is what I was going to say to you. They're passionate males, but females.
We are allowed, like, Italian women are portrayed as very sensual beings, but you can't touch us. Like, like they won't act on it. You can look.
It's like the forbidden fruit.
Yeah. It's such a fucking stupid contradiction. Sorry, keep going with what you said.
No, this is total, like, interesting. See, look, my mum was probably a little different to yours. So my dad was very old school. My mum was not necessarily, but she also was a lot less of a dominant parent. So in order, she probably just went with a lot of what my dad wanted, even though that's not necessarily her. So if I was ever in those situations, it's not like I couldn't have spoken to her about it. But I think I didn't a lot of the time, in order to not put that stress on her of having knowledge about what I was doing that my dad didn't know. I didn't want to put her in that predicament. So in saying that, so I didn't have, I think that's what has kept me so level over the years, is the fact that I probably don't have any of the shame or the guilt from my mother's side. My feminine side, my mum's so maternal, and she's very caring and accepting and encouraging of the person that I am today. And I've been very unconventional for my family constructs and traditions. And she has always been encouraging of that, even though it's been challenging over the time. My dad has struggled with it, but over the years, he's really done his best to get used to it. There was a point in time where he just didn't want to, and then I don't know what happened, but I think my persistence he just eventually gave up.
Yeah.
Which has been lucky, because otherwise, if without that, we potentially wouldn't have the relationship that we have today. Like, it's realizing that he did the best that he could. Bless my dad. Like, he really worked hard. And again, for women, my sister and I we were the only family in our family that didn't have boys, right? So it was just my sister and I. Right. Everyone else had males and females. And my dad always wanted a boy. And so growing up, I was put in really tough situations where I was treated like the boy, you know, taught how to water ski at like 4 or 5 years old, like just got my boat license at 12, like you name it. I kind of did those things to fill that void for him specifically. But that meant that a lot of my family had males and they would send them to really good schools, and the females, they wouldn't. And it was kind of this well-known thing. Now, not that it matters where your education comes from. At the end of the day, if you want to learn, you will. But it was well known to me, like, why is your dad wasting his money on educating females in such an expensive school when your role is to support a male?
Oh, mamma mia. God.
I know, right? And he just was doing it because my dad never viewed us that way at all. I was very fortunate that my dad wasn't like that at all. So he sent us to a really good school, but thought, you know, they're going to get a really good education, but they're still going to be good, like, housewives.
Oh, yeah.
But what happened is, you know, going to an all-female school, I learned a lot about social justice and women's rights, and I've been on a mission for not only social justice and women's rights, but also animal rights ever since.
Yes.
So I think
that backfired, Dad.
It backfired, and a few years back we had a conversation where I said to him, "You paid for this education, mate. You paid for this, so you may as well just embrace it because it's not going anywhere." And he kind of had a light bulb moment, I think, and went, "Yeah,
it's
okay."
Like, oh shit!
Shit, I did. So getting back to boys. Oh my goodness, so many tangents.
No, this is good. I love the tangents.
Well, boys, yeah, that was the formal story was an elaborate story that, you know, he was my friend's brother, brother's friend who wanted to go to the formal. I can't even remember it, to be honest with you, but it was one of those elaborate situations where it was like a friend of a friend of a friend of a friend, and I don't want to be the only one not taking anyone.
Yeah, man.
And then in year 12, I couldn't be bothered. That was year 11 formal. Year 12, I was so done with that 4-month
bullshit,
elaborate bullshit that I had to do that in year 12 I went stag.
So did I. I went
you?
stag too. Yeah, I was like, fuck this for a joke. I went with a group of friends and yeah, I went stag. I could not be bothered with all the fucking politics and all the bullshit surrounding that. And I remember getting picked on actually for that. I remember, but now looking back, I'm like, oh, well, it makes sense because you guys didn't have the balls to go stag yourself, motherfuckers. So.
It was true. Like no, it wasn't a done thing at our school. I think nowadays it's kind of cool. Like I hear kids doing it all the time, but back then nobody went without a partner. Like we were talking about back in the days where you weren't allowed to take a partner of the same sex either. I don't know if yours was the same, but we were not allowed to take.
I'm trying to think in my year level. I honestly, yeah, look, there were a few gay and lesbian people in my year level, but I don't think they were out then. Okay. So I don't think, I actually cannot even remember, to be honest.
I do remember because my best friend and I, she was an Italian girl as well, and she was a bit the same. So we just decided to go by ourselves, and we were like, okay, well, we'll take each other, or we'll take female friends of ours, like our close female cousins or whatever. We'll take someone, and we weren't allowed to. You weren't allowed to take.
Fuck? That's bad.
It is. Nowadays, I'm pretty sure you're allowed to.
Oh, you should. Well, you should be. But
cause a shit show otherwise.
Well, it's. You'd hope so in theory that shit like that is not going on. However, I used to be a teacher, and the last school that I was at, they didn't even let the kids do the purple day.
Why?
Their justification was it invites bullying and puts the pressure on people who may not be ready to come out. I'm like, that's not the fucking point of the day.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which is really, really disappointing that in 2020, they're still fucking that mentality, because there's people in the hierarchies of schools that
Well, they're just sweeping things under the rug.
are not willing to get with the program. And that's detrimental for the kids, really.
Well, yeah, absolutely. Like it's basically kind of saying, look, this is still like, it's okay, but it's not quite okay yet, you know? Like, so if you're kind of having those thoughts, then, and it's like, no, let's just call it what it is. You're being like, what's the word? I can't even think of it anymore. You're being ridiculous, basically.
Yeah, correct.
That's what I was going to say. Archaic in your thinking. That's what I was going to say.
Yeah.
Archaic.
And it's actually not about the the people that work in the schools. Schools are there to facilitate the education and the well-being of students.
Yeah, that's it.
Right.
Crazy times.
Crazy.
Yeah. So no, we that was it. And to be honest with you, then I met my ex-husband at my year 12 formal when I was
weird
sad.
to say ex-husband, just FYI.
No, I'm fine with it. Yeah. Okay. I say to him, hello, ex-husband. So it's fine. But yeah, I met him. He was there with another girl from my year level, like they were dating at the time. Yeah. And I remember being introduced to him because I knew my ex-husband's name for all of high school. My best friend and his family were family friends, really close family friends. And I had seen him in the distance many times over the years, but we'd never actually met. But I was aware of him. I knew about his family. Like I knew my best friend really didn't like him, and she just thought he was a dick. Which is probably part of my attraction, let's be honest. This is something that's only coming to my realization recently, Carla. I'm like, I'm very attracted to sarcasm and all the things. So yeah, then we met in person properly, and he was with this other girl at my school and said hello, didn't think too much of it. And then a few months later at my best friend's 18th birthday, her parents made her invite him. And she had a big fuss about it because she didn't want to, because she really didn't like him. Yeah, sure. But she did it. And that was when it was like, you remember Adam? And I was like, oh yeah, hi. And he was like, oh, hi. And then he said something sarcastic and I just went straight back at him. And then the night was just spent like back and forward like a tennis match, and everyone around us like, ooh, this is interesting. What's going on here? And then, yeah, once he left, he did everything he could to get my number, and I wouldn't give it to him because I was like, I'm not about to deal with my dad. Like I was 17 at the time, finishing year 12. I was like, I'm not about to deal with this. My dad won't even let me have a boyfriend, and I just couldn't be bothered. Like I really just couldn't be bothered, even though I did like him. And so about 3 months went by, and then I went to his 18th birthday. He managed to send an invitation. He managed to get a hold of my number somehow as well from somebody else at my school. And he's like, come to my birthday. So we managed to be allowed to go to this 18th birthday.
Shit.
Well, don't even know how, but it was obviously fate, right? And I remember him saying, like, he had been asking me out, catch up. And I was like, no. Like I was basically ignoring him. And he goes, what do I have to do to get you to go out with me? And I said, try harder. And he goes, fine, I will. And I said, fine. And that was the goal.
For sure.
I know, right? And then I eventually went out with him like a month later. It was like the week of Christmas. I went out with him for like the first time. And then February the next year, he met my family, and the rest was history.
Wow. So how did you manage the 3 or 4 years that you were dating? You weren't allowed to sleep over. You weren't allowed to. How did you get from that point to going, okay, we're going to get married?
We kind of really just knew from the beginning. It was like, we were pretty much inseparable.
Right.
He would He used to work at Woolies, and he would come over to my house every night after he'd finish work at like 9. Like he'd finish at 9, and he'd come to my place. It'd be about 9:30, and he would stay until midnight and drive home at midnight every night without fail. And then on weekends, it would be the same deal. He would come over during the day, and I would go to his house, like maybe like his parents' house, like once, maybe twice a week. But because I had to be home earlier than he did, he would come to my house so we could spend more time together.
So it was okay if he was at your place under supervision of your parents?
Pretty much, yes. Yeah.
Okay.
That was fine. And the few occasions that he ever did sleep over, or we like went away as a family or whatever, it was in separate rooms.
Yes, right.
Yeah, it was that situation. But yeah, come about midnight, he would, like sometimes he'd be falling asleep and he'd do the whole, blare the music in the car, turn the air conditioners on, have the windows down trick and drive home. And I used to be so worried about him all of the time. But we were very inseparable. Like we just loved spending time together, and we wanted to get married. And because we were so young, we got a lot of shit for it as well. And everyone was saying, you're too young to get married. But we just knew that we wanted to. And when we did, I remember being one of those people, Carla, who was like, how do people even get divorced? Like, I love my husband so much. All I want to do is spend time with him. Those words. I know. Like, and I genuinely did. Like, still to this day, is someone that the person in the world that I can have the biggest belly laugh with is probably my ex-husband. Like, we shared in a sense of humor. And we appreciated each other's differences because we were very different. I'm creative and he's in IT, wow. So contrast. But yeah, as we got older, we also realized that there was things that we wanted in our lives that the other person just couldn't bring to the table for us. It was just out of alignment with them. Like I can't I've had a big career in the arts. I've been in business for myself for 12 years now. There's lots of things that go on in my life. I travel around a bit. I do lots of speaking appearances and things, and I'm in a political party as well. I'm a delegate and a representative for the Animal Justice Party. So my life doesn't lend itself well to being a housewife, so to speak. And there's nothing wrong with that. I think it's beautiful. Like I really, really do. It's just not me. Yeah. And it doesn't mean that I don't want to have children. I think with the right person, you'll always look at that person and you want to co-create, because creation is one of the highest forms of love and bringing life. Creation is one of the highest forms of energy in this lifetime. Mm-hmm. But we didn't see that in each other, and we recognized, because we've both done a lot of inner work, we recognized that we didn't see that in each other, that it wasn't like, after all these years, I still don't feel compelled to create with you. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I think he would be much better supported because he's also got a very big career and he works really, really hard, and he would be maybe potentially better supported with someone who appreciates being more nurturing than I am. Yeah. Whereas I tend to be a lot in my masculine rather than in my feminine.
Yeah.
I need someone who's a little more strong-willed, that knows that, because I'm a very strong energy, I need someone who is okay with me being all of the things and still knowing their place and not being swayed by my influence. Like I need someone who's strong in themselves.
Yeah.
That's what I think.
Yeah. You and I are the same in a lot of ways. We're both quite high energy. We're both very sure and balanced within who we are, and we know what we're about, and that can be my experience has been it can be very intimidating for the opposite sex, because they have to kind of check themselves, because I am not, and I think you would say the same about yourself, I'm not one to sit there, bat my eyelids and not say anything. I will always have
an opinion.
Yeah. I will always participate in a conversation. I will not be one to it's going to take a strong man and somebody who's very happy within themselves before because I just haven't come across that person yet.
someone who appreciates it and finds it endearing rather than overwhelming.
Yes. Correct.
And I have come across like male synths, that do appreciate my intensity as well. It's, still like I've not really been in the position where I'm actively kind of pursuing that right now after, 14 years with someone. Mind you, like, let's be honest, hitting the dating scene after 14 years, like, I met my ex-husband, I'm in year 12, I
very different now
with him ever since. I never went through that dating, like teenage years, my rampage stage up until now. And oh my goodness, it is an incredibly fun world. Let's be honest.
It is, but it can be quite. It can be draining. Like I went, because I've been single for so long. I've tried Bumble and Tinder, but I only was on them maybe twice each for a couple of days at a time, and it's just not my jam. I have to meet somebody in real life,
right?
I can't engage effectively over that.
No, I sense someone's energy, so I need to have met them in real life to kind of it's not the same for me. I haven't gone as far as to be on any dating apps yet.
Good, don't do it, it's shit.
I think I'm fortunate enough by virtue of all the things that I do that I just meet so many people all the time. And so I've had more offers than I could probably handle.
That's nice.
Look, it is, but like I'm very in tune with myself, so it doesn't mean that I necessarily engage, if that makes sense, because I kind of just know it takes a lot for me to be like, that person, I'm going to spend my time with that person because I'm all about conversation. I need someone who questions the depths of the universe like I do, I'm such a curious mind.
Yes. Yeah. Yep.
So and that's a big part of, again, meeting somebody, I guess, in person is straight away you kind of know when you start having a conversation with someone, whereas I guess through like text or online, it's probably a little harder.
Yeah, you can't tell. And it's so right. It's interesting that you say question the depths of the universe. I love that. I'm not good at the on the surface bullshit. So it seems that there are a lot of people that are quite just comfortable with on the surface stuff, but I need to get down and dirty with all the good stuff. I can't sit. So it's interesting. A lot of the stuff that you're saying, even though we haven't seen each other in a couple of years, it's interesting how much we have in common.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And it's like, I have some great male friends in my life now that I can have those conversations with, and I'm so grateful for that. There's females as well, but it tends to be more so males that like to have conversations about, consciousness and I don't know, any of the kind of weird things that it was funny with my ex-husband. It was always like, I would be like, do you ever wonder, like why the sky is blue and why the trees are green? And he'd be like, no. I'd be like, you think I'm weird, don't you? And he's like, yes, I do. And somehow I love you for it, but you are. And that's a feedback I do get from males I'm close with. They're like, you're really weird. And I'm like, I'm totally fine with being weird.
Yes.
I will find someone else weird when I'm ready to let that person into my life. Yeah. But it's about conversation. It's also about not taking life too seriously, because I'm someone who on the surface might look, successful, ambitious, very driven, hard work ethic, etc. But I actually don't take any of it very seriously anymore. That was, a big part of myself when I was younger that I had to let go of all of the years because I was sick of being stressed all the time. And so if I attract types that are very work-driven, men who are very focused and driven, and they kind of like that part of me as well, sometimes they just take it so seriously and there's just nothing else in their lives.
Yeah,
And you're like, okay, well, if that is all it is, it seems to me like it's counterproductive. Like it defeats the purpose of being successful when you don't ever get to enjoy a minute of your life. You know, I got into business at 20 years old so that I can do what I do now, which is I am location independent. I can work from home. I can work from anywhere in the world, and I still have a business running. But that's when I put in the years back then. But if I was still stuck in that cycle right now, what would have been the point?
Yeah, correct.
You know,
Correct.
So I guess,
correct.
yeah.
I totally love and agree with what you've just said. What's the point of being here if you're not going to find some joy and purpose? And that it's great when people love what they do. Like I love what I do, but there's still, you know, I still need to remind myself to switch off. Like most of my cabaret journey, I've been doing the double hustle, teaching plus cabaret. And there wasn't a lot of time for me left, which is so important. And obviously I've learned that lesson now. And yeah, I totally agree with what you're saying. So speaking of being serious, you got real serious real early with your ex-husband. So how would you play things differently now as an adult who has already been married and divorced? How would you play your next romance differently, or would you play something?
You know what? My first, like with my ex, it was just so natural and organic. And I also think it came from the examples that we had been taught, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Now, and so what I've noticed the minute that I kind of, you know, start engaging with the male since, you know, being separated and now divorced, is like, I'm just like really normal and just like comfortable. I'm very comfortable with myself. I'm very confident. And I just, you know, I'll chat and then it's like, oh, apparently there are games that we're supposed to be playing right now. That I
It's
did
bullshit.
not know about.
It's shit. Don't play the games because they're terrible. They're terrible.
Can you, like, it's like all of a sudden, like, there's it's like two sides of it's like I'll just start chit-chatting, and so then they're either panicking that you're, you know, getting too close too soon and that you want to build something straight away and whatever, and I'm like, no, I'm just talking to you like a normal person.
Yeah.
Or then they're like, you know, worrying that your friend's owning them because you're too comfortable, and that's not what they want either, and it's like, I'm just talking to you like a normal person. So I didn't realize that normal people don't talk when they're dating.
Yeah. It's I think, but that's also maybe a little bit of you just haven't stumbled across the right person yet.
Yeah.
Because my thing is the thing that's been keeping me keeping some hope up there in the air for me is if I exist, I believe so does he. And whenever he's supposed to show up, he'll show up.
That's amazing. I love that.
Well, I just got to the point where, so all my friends were married from the ages of 23 to 26, and they all started having kids at about 26. I'm 34. I have not been married. I don't have kids. There were definitely times, and like I've been single for so long, there's definitely been times where I'm like, well, what the fuck is wrong with me? What the fuck is it? Because I know
nothing.
Because I know I'm perfect. Oh, thanks, Steve. I know that I'm quite strong. I know that I'm quite expressive. I'm passionate. I'm a lot of intense things, but I feel. Yeah, there were definitely times where there were lows that I was like, oh, well, basically maybe this is just it. So to give myself a bit of hope, I was like, okay, I'm happy where I am in my life now. I'm grateful for all the things I have now. And I'm sure if I exist, he does too. And whenever he's supposed to show up, he will. You know what I mean? That gave me a bit of relief and took some pressure off as well.
Of course. Look, to be honest with you, I think I probably have a very different perspective on this to most people. And I don't know if that's because I was in a relationship for such a long time. So
Yeah.
I've been there. So for me, I'm not so attached to having it.
Yeah.
In fact, like even with children, people say to me, do you want children? And I say, well, look, I would love to have children,
Yeah.
but whether or not they're in my journey, I trust. And I guess I come from, a very spiritual perspective on life, essentially, where I'm very big into, the laws of the universe and everything that is meant to be will be. And I also understand, that I'm guided and that I have a place. And so for me, it's, I guess, of not looking for him. And in looking for him, that would be then showing the universe that I don't trust that
Correct.
it has my best intentions at
Yes.
heart.
Agreed.
So in the absence of looking, and I'm not talking about not taking action whatsoever, like it's still go out, date, have fun, meet people. But I guess I've even become more and more detached to even doing that at this point in time, because I'm just not worried.
Yes.
I don't have any place to meddle in this anyway. I can be clear. All I can be clear on is how I want to feel as a result of these situations or in my life. What are the feelings that I'm working towards? Freedom, abundance. Is it love? Is it family? Is it connection? What are the things that I'm working towards, and how do they make me feel? And as long as I feel good thinking about those things, I should trust how they present themselves, because how I think they're going to present and how they actually present
could be two different things. Mm-hmm.
Correct. And so a lot of the time when people ask about the divorce, it was like, that was happening to us whether we liked it or not. I was very clear that was an external force much more powerful than I am, that was putting a fracture in between us, because the two of us had a lot more growth to do. And the growth that I have done since, the personal growth, I would never have done it in that place.
Correct.
And I was so many things I needed to learn about myself and my attachment and my stories and all of the attachment I have to my identity up until that point in time, and still currently, to be able to really do what it is that I set out to do in this world the day I was born, which, I'll spend a lifetime trying to figure out, obviously.
Yeah.
But I trust that one or multiple males may be part of that journey now. And I'm fine with it. I'm fine with whatever comes and whatever it teaches me. And I now know what to recognize pretty quickly, like, oh, that is, like, I'm learning a lot from this situation. This is serving me, or this is not healthy.
Mm-hmm.
And just discerning the two. Yeah.
I love that. And I think that's where the whole pressure we put on ourselves, it's really good to have that perspective. It's actually none of our business how it's going to get here.
Mm-hmm.
It's actually none of our business how that's all going to manifest and happen. And that's why the whole, if I exist, so does he. But who knows when he'll turn up and how he turns up, that's got nothing to do with me. I love the way that you unpacked that, Dee. That was amazing. That was really good. That was really good. Well, and I think culturally as well, for the two of us, there is so much pressure to fit into a certain box. And I know when I had mum's side of the family disappear from my life, it made me reassess who I was, because my identity was so wrapped up in being a good niece, a good granddaughter, a good cousin, a good whatever. I was the type of family member that would go do the right thing, visit everybody on the weekend, all that kind of bullshit, you know.
So was I.
Yeah. And then I had that all taken away, and I really had to go, okay, it's me now. Who the fuck am I? Like, I knew who I was on some level, but I really did not know how much I was actually just a reflection of what the expectations were of my family members.
Yes. Wow. That's so powerful.
And it was
so
fucking
powerful.
tough. It was tough.
No, because it is a part of your identity up until, and you never questioned it. And
Correct.
then all of a sudden you're forced to question it.
Yeah.
You know, it's interesting that you said that, because when I was deep in one of my meditation journeys, like maybe a week or two ago, I put a post up about this on social media the other day, actually. I was sitting there and it was thinking about love, like, and I was kind of, you know, deep in the process of pondering it, so to speak. And the answer that came to me was, in order to accept love, you must deal with loss. And I thought, isn't that interesting? I think, you know, thinking about the person, if there is a person moving forward, I don't think that at this point in time I'm in a position where I would be ready to receive nor recognize the love that was being sent my way, because there are still things that I'm holding on to.
Sure. Yeah, that makes sense.
And so rather than, you know, the pain of the losses that we've had in our life, I mean, and nothing's really ever a loss, but it feels as though it's a loss to us, and we have to let it go, and we have to sit in the nothingness of that situation, the emptiness that the loss brings. Because this divorce is really interesting. Like, I've been through death before, like losing family members and close people, and I understand mourning in that capacity. But divorce actually brought on quite a period of mourning. For about 12 months, I would wake up sometimes multiple days a week and I just wouldn't be able to get out of bed. I was crying. And people around me, some people were really understanding, and some people were like, but this is a mutual separation. He didn't do anything bad to you. Why are you upset? And it's because you are still mourning, and you're not mourning a person because they're still around, but you're mourning the loss of the vision you had built for your life together.
Yes. Yes.
And all of a sudden you wake up each day and you don't have that to work towards anymore. And so then you go, well, then what?
What am I doing? Yeah.
What am I doing? Does my life even have meaning or purpose right now? Because everything I ever worked towards was intertwined with that person, and that doesn't exist anymore, which was really interesting. So loss is something that I think we need to really deal with, to be able to allow new love into our life and not bring forward the bad stuff, the baggage, correct, from
I think on that note, spot on with what you were saying, because so often people in relationships are making their new partner pay for their old partner's mistakes without realizing. Things may come up that trigger, oh my God, my ex used to do this. And maybe it's not even in the exact same way, but something's triggered it, and then you go into a default reaction that is actually reserved for your ex, not for the person that you are with. So it's really important, and I hope I've done the work I need to for when my love turns up, that I am not making him pay for the past.
Yeah, I noticed this massively.
Yeah.
So spot on.
And that's why I'm grateful for the time that I've had where I've not been in a relationship with anybody, that I've been able to hold the mirror up to myself and go, okay, this is what is a strength within me. These are the weaknesses that I need to work on. How can I put my best foot forward in the world, irrespective of if I'm with someone or without someone? Because I don't know if you've had this, growing up as an Italian girl, you are not worth anything unless you are with someone. And then when you're an adult, if you are not married, you are worthless.
It's like, oh, what's wrong with her? They didn't raise her very well, did they?
Yeah, so my nonna on my mum's side would have all my cousins' wedding photos up fucking everywhere around the house. And there was no photos of me. I'm like, Nonna, what is going on here? Oh, well, you're not married yet, so I can't put a photo up of you anywhere because you're not married. I'm like, well, fuck you. I'm not coming over anymore. That's fine. That's fine.
You basically, you haven't been validated in this world yet.
Yeah.
Look, it's interesting. Like my grandmother is similar to that in some ways. My nonna, she's on my dad's side. My mum's side, she passed away. She passed away just before I got engaged, actually, and I was really sad because she was the one person I wanted to tell that I got engaged because I knew she was very excited about it. In saying that, from memory, I don't think she was super judgmental in that way. She was my only grandparent that was born here in Australia, even though she was from an Italian background, and so she was a little more progressive in her thinking.
Yeah.
My only grandmother still around now, my nonna, who is your stereotypical Italian nonna, she's a little bit like that. Like she's always talking about, like, I pray for you every day that you find someone to get married now.
You're like, that's fine, Nonna. It's all right. I'm good.
I'm good, Nonna, right? But in saying that, when telling her about the divorce, that was actually something that I was not looking forward to because I knew she would be so disappointed, and I actually had no idea what her reaction might be in this situation.
Yeah. Yep.
And she surprised me. She turned around to me and in Italian she said to me, if you feel like you want to run, don't think you have to stay.
Oh, wow.
And I bawled my eyes out. It was just the permission I needed to be like, I can do this.
Wow, that's profound.
Blew my mind, Carla.
Profound from a nonna. That's pretty profound.
She was so spot on too, because I felt like I wanted to run, but I thought I had to stay. And that's what she said to me in her Calabrese accent.
Do you want to say in Italian?
I don't even know how to say it. I have to ask her again. I'll have to ask her again. I'm not very good at my Italian's still shit, even though I did year 12 Italian, still didn't help. But she did. If you feel like you want to run, don't think you have to stay. And it hit me. I was like, I just cried and cried and cried.
Oh God!
Like, wow. Okay, that was a huge permission. That was a huge permission slip. So nowadays we just laugh about it, and because we joke about, Nonna, when are you going to get a boyfriend? Because she hasn't been with anyone since my nonna passed, like many, many years ago. And she's like, no, one man, one God. That's it. I said, but what about me? Why do you want me to get married again? You're still young. It's okay for you. Not for me. I said, so you're saying that if I was like 40 or 50 and I got divorced, I'm not allowed to find another boyfriend? Oh, no. You're still young. It's okay.
Good job, Nonna. Well done. Well done.
She's like, when is, your friend that you live with, does she have a boyfriend? No, she likes women. No, you're joking with me. No, she's not married. Oh, it doesn't matter. Soon. No, it doesn't matter. Like, so I get it.
Oh, shit. Oh, man, so funny. Oh, God.
It's like it was kind of more like you're divorced, but let's just shh about it.
Yes.
You don't have to be vocal.
Yeah, we don't have to talk about it. Yeah, it'll be interesting when you bring a new boy around, or man. It'll be interesting how Nonna goes with it, because she might not even want to address that there was a divorce that happened in front of you.
Maybe. Oh, look, she's really funny. This age is kind of, it's got its pros and its cons. Like, the cons, I guess, which is still a pro, is that people are very established in their routine now. And like, when you're a little bit old, when you're younger, see, Adam and I, we didn't have any like conclusions drawn at that point in time. So we just kind of were like making up decisions about life together.
As you go, yeah.
Whereas now what I'm noticing is when I have conversations with, potential male suitors, and especially because I'm an animal rights activist and I'm a vegan.
Yes.
And it was brought to my attention by a good friend of mine in the US, where she was like, she's also an animal rights activist. She works for PETA, a very, very vegan. And she was like to me, I don't actually date vegans. And I was like, what do you mean you don't date vegans? Because she had like 5 boyfriends at once. She's a gun, right?
Yeah. So she's polyamorous.
No, she no, she just was like she'll date people, but she'll never like settle down with them.
Gotcha.
She just keeps them all in this little puppy dog spiral thing. Whatever happens. Point is that the reason she's doing it is she's like, I don't date vegans. I said, why not? She's like, because dating is the best form of activism. like, and she's really like, she's gorgeous, she's blonde, she's just like all the things. She's a dancer, she's all the rest of it. And so she just kind of like uses her alluringness to get men to go vegan, which is great. But I find that I find myself in epic debates.
Yeah.
When men, when you have that thing where you have an attraction, there's always that little like disagreement pattern that's going on just for, shits. And for me, I'm just constantly in debate cycles about animal rights activism.
And that's exhausting though. That's exhausting. Like because I was vegetarian first at 12, and then in my early 20s, I think it was 22 or something like that, I went vegan. And there were so many fucking times, even when I was vegetarian, because it was not cool then at all. No. It wasn't even a thing. And because I'm Italian, I'm allergic to coffee. I don't drink. I don't eat animals. I'm gluten intolerant. Yeah. Like I've got all the things that Italians shouldn't have. I've got all the things. And I just got
to coffee.
Yeah. Allergic, like super allergic.
Wow.
I just got to a point when because you can always tell when people are asking questions out of genuine curiosity and wanting to learn, in comparison to I'm just being a fuckhead and I am uncomfortable with what you represent as a person, so I'm going to break you down until you cry. Like I've learned very quickly because I'm a very sensitive human. I learned very quickly to pay attention to that, oh shit, here we go again, and how to diffuse that. Yes, I'm not perfect, and there were still very many times where I'd just be like, you know what, fuckhead, if you are not going to come at this as at a mature level where we can both listen to each other's side of the coin and teach each other something, I'm not going to engage. Like, I just eat a dick 100%. And go away. Like, I'm not going to.
I'm not going to do it. Look, I'm very fortunate that doesn't happen too often. If it does, again, same as you, like I just won't waste my time.
Correct.
I think what unsuspecting potential males don't realize when I say that I'm an animal rights activist, and I coordinate Anonymous for the Voices here in South Australia, and like I said, I'm in the Animal Justice Party as well. So this is actually like what I eat, sleep and breathe a lot of my life. And so I'm at the capacity where I'm like, bring it on, debate me, because I will tear you apart. And I do. And then at the end of it, it's kind of good because it's the difference between the ones who are like, okay, like firstly I get a lot of feedback like, well, most vegans don't know how to debate like you. And I'm like, well, it's not fair of you to put that expectation on them anyway. You just happened to come across me and you didn't realize it. But at the end of it, it's like the ones who are like, cool, all right, I respect where you're coming from and we can then learn something from each other. And then there's the ones who are butthurt. So yeah, you can definitely like use it as a way to discern the difference. But I guess it's because we're so set in so many ways, and that's just one example. Yeah. It's about finding somebody who you'll always have your differences, but you will also appreciate and incorporate the other person's differences into your life because you'll want to.
Yeah, exactly. And I think you raised a really interesting point there that I think people really need to take on or just ponder on for a moment about why do people feel the need to force an argument because of something they don't necessarily understand. We are all different. We all come at this world with different experiences, different worldviews, different trauma, different baggage. This is what I don't understand. Why is what I eat or don't eat so offensive to some people? I don't understand the offensiveness, especially when I am super conscious of happy to talk to people who actually really want to talk about it, but I'm super conscious of when I'm around those people who are not wanting, like who are not the right people to talk about it with, and they're generally the ones that get their back up so much by not seeing a piece of meat on my plate or whatever it is. I don't understand why it is so offensive to somebody who eats meat that I don't eat it. I don't understand.
It's very simple. It's a projection of the things that you're bringing up in themselves that are too comfortable for them to address. So what happens is, by virtue of you being strong in your choice and your energy, it means that they have to, then it's brought into their awareness, and then they'll start to think about it. And because they probably at the end of the day agree with why you're doing what you're doing, but the cognitive dissonance and the connection between the action is so strong right now. Well, actually, the cognitive dissonance is disappearing, right? So they're then connecting the action and the thought together, but keeping it out of sight and out of mind means that you don't have to address it. Whereas when it's brought into the forefront of our experience, then we're forced to think about it. And even if we stop ourselves thinking about it, it's like a pressure cooker. If the thought is there, you have to address it eventually. Otherwise, it's just going to keep spiraling and spiraling and spiraling. Whereas, see, I probably tend to be a little bit of the opposite with you. Like, I certainly won't waste my time talking to people who want to just be stupid about it, because I just don't do that anymore. Like, once upon a time, I used to get really worked up about it in this spiral, whereas now, because I'm so confident and I actually know the research, I know the facts, I know the knowledge behind it, and I'm really confident in why I do what I do, it doesn't bother me so much anymore. But one of the things that I found really useful when this situation arises is when people start either asking questions or trolling me, especially in a public space, like where there's a few people around. I'll go, okay. And this happened to me when I was away with a friend of mine who is particularly, my relationship with him is pretty much built on debating veganism. I don't like that's basically all we do. When we met earlier this year in a retreat in Costa Rica, we kind of he, after a few days of just like the snide remarks, we were at a table and he sat next to me and he's like, "Can we have this debate?" And I was like, "Are you sure? Like, are you sure you want to have this debate?" And he's like, "Yeah, let's have this debate." And so I said to everybody else at the table, and this is something I do often, I go, "Okay, disclaimer, just so everybody here understands, he approached me about having the conversation about veganism. I am not forcing my beliefs on him."
Yeah.
Is that correct? You want to have this conversation? Because if you want to have this conversation, we're going to have this conversation. I'm not going to hold back, yes or no. And sometimes people will go, no, don't worry about it. And sometimes people are like, no, I genuinely, like, I want to have this debate.
That's good.
Okay, let's do it then.
Because the misconception is that we are out there forcing this to anybody who has ears, when the majority of the time it is people approaching us.
Literally. And I'm a street activist because, I will be out there tomorrow in Rundle Mall, like talking to people, and people are like, "Why are you out there forcing your beliefs?" And I said, "I'm literally out there standing in the mall, and then people walk past and they stop and you say, what we're doing here today?" And they go, "Probably something about animals." Correct. We're talking about the animal agriculture industry. And straight away whether or not they want to have a conversation. And if they don't, I'm not allowed to hold them down in the mall. I'll get arrested. You just chat. That's it. So there's no forcing of beliefs. Anyone who thinks that anyone is forcing beliefs on them needs to grow up and realize that they are a sovereign being and that they have as much right to choose their experience as anybody else does. Nobody can force anything on you. If you are feeling forced, you're playing a victim, and that is a choice.
Yeah. In a lot of scenarios, unless we're talking like physical violence and shit like that, that's a different game.
100%.
Yeah,
I'm talking we're talking about forcing beliefs.
Yes, yeah, exactly.
Contextual, very important to clarify. Thank you for that.
That's all right.
But yes, when we are like having a conversation and we disagree, what happened with the art of agreeing to disagree?
Yeah. Oh, I do it all the fucking time. Hey, man. Yeah. It's interesting, though, even on the topic of I don't drink. Like, I'll rarely have an alcoholic beverage. Very rarely. I've maybe been drunk as an adult 3 or 4 times in my life. And that's just a choice, personal choice. That's right for me. I'm not out whenever I'm drinking, whenever I'm out with people who are drinking, I'm not standing there going, oh, you guys are drinking and I'm not. I'm literally just standing there enjoying myself. But again, just me being there with water or no drink at all seems to be quite polarizing and fucking offensive to people.
Really?
Yeah.
Because I'm the same as well. So I don't drink. I've gone through periods of my life where I have, like after I separated, I did for a bit, and then I've been periods of my life. The longest period I didn't like have a drink at all was like 2 years and 1 week, I think it was. I haven't. Again, I woke up on the 1st of January this year, and I went, I don't want to drink anymore again. Yeah. So, and I haven't since. And I think a lot of people, like it sparks curiosity. Oh, like, do you want something to drink? Oh, no, thank you. I don't drink. And I don't tend to get backlash. I usually get curiosity with that. You know, I mean, occasionally you might get the odd projection of, oh, you just don't know how to relax.
Yeah.
Like, actually, I do.
I do.
But you said that, so that means that you struggle with how to relax. So that's obviously a projection.
That's on you, baby. That's on you. Yeah, isn't it?
I guess it's just talking to people about it.
Yeah, and I think also maybe, it is a projection thing. Like I remember when I was with my ex, one of his mates had a house party and one of the wives of the boys just didn't like the fact that I was not having a drink. And she was like, just have a fucking drink. What is your problem? I'm like, I don't have a problem. You're the one that seems to have a problem that I'm not drinking.
Yeah.
And she literally came up to me with a drink in hand and said, just fucking drink it. I'm like, no, I'm good. She's like, no, just fucking drink it.
Oh, wow.
And I just put the drink down and I went, I'm good. And I think I'm going to go. I'm not comfortable. Like this is like, I just don't understand the need to be, if somebody's not doing what everybody else is doing, but just leave them be. If they're happy, content with what they're doing, just leave them be. Just leave them the fuck be.
I am. Look, I can't say I've been in a situation like that. But you probably did the right thing. Like at the end of the day, what other people think of us is none of our business. Yeah. So if that's like really like upsetting her, and by virtue of being there you're like, oh look, I'm upsetting you by being here, and to be honest with you, like I don't care enough to be here to deal with this, and you just remove yourself from the situation. Exactly.
And I think that used to the fact that drugs aren't my thing and alcohol's not my thing. I know that was a contentious issue for my ex. Like that was embarrassing that I didn't know what the different names of like certain drugs and stuff were, because that wasn't cool. I'm like, I don't care.
I have no idea. I'm the same. I've just not been, it wasn't my scene. Yeah. But to be honest with you, I have never encountered that to be a problem. I've
encountered that a lot. And I think maybe because from a young age I was hanging out with older people a lot. Because when I was at school I was singing with the year 12s, and I when I was in like year 8, year 9, and I got invited to all their parties. So so I just got to be around that stuff a lot earlier. And as a teenager, I used to drink at parties and stuff like that. But then I got to year 12 and I remember pouring myself a glass of wine to do an assignment. And I went, oh, this is wrong. This is not good. I don't need a wine to do an assignment. I'm not going to drink anymore. And then I became the designated driver for everybody from the ages of 18 to 22, and I got jack of that, and I was like, people...
You got stereotyped.
Yeah, people are only being my friend because they know that I'll take them home.
You know,
After a
it's
big night.
interesting that you had the self-awareness at such a young age to make that observation.
Yeah, I was like, this isn't good. I'm going to stop.
And I think that is a lot of the things at the time, the things that it's a lot of what comes down to the decisions that we make is our level of self-awareness in different areas.
Yeah.
We make decisions about what we are and aren't going to do, like based on, I guess, we all have different areas that are very strong to us, and then we think about them a lot, and we have passionate feelings about it. And none of it makes us a good or bad person. None of it means anything about us, so to speak. But then again, it does mean lots of different things about us. Like, point is that it's only really like we can only do what we want to do in any situation, you know, and the more that we can be okay with ourselves, the less projections we'll have, and we won't end up in those fights with other people because we're not projecting ourselves onto what they're doing. We're not triggered by, like, I haven't made a decision not to drink because I think it's a cool thing, but really it's not actually my decision. Like, I don't do it because it's just genuinely I don't want to. I don't know. But if I woke up tomorrow and I wanted to, Carla, honestly, like, I wouldn't be bothered by it.
Yeah.
You know, I've even sat and, you know, by not eating meat for, you know, so many years. I mean, I was veggie for 7 before I was vegan for, you know, the last 5 going on 6 years as well. And I've had to many times sit with the fact that if one day, let's say my opinion on that changed, which I find very hard to believe because I'm so in it, but let's say it did, hypothetically speaking, my subjective reality lended itself towards me introducing animal products back into my life, I'd have to be okay with that too.
Exactly.
I don't know. We have gone on to a big tangent.
Which is completely fine. So to close for today, would you be able to share some more wisdom with our listeners about how you have gotten through heartbreak? What's effective? What's not effective? How would you be able to shed some light on how people can go about getting through heartbreak?
I think the most important thing that I have learned is that you must actually go through the heartbreak. Trying to be strong is not going to be helpful. Being too messy and just reveling in it, because misery loves company, that's not helpful either. You should wake up each given day and honor your emotions at the time and how you're feeling. Feel what you need to do, laugh, scream, cry, reminisce, talk through it, ignore it, whatever your process is. Act out, don't act out. Go, you know, be a recluse, go out and party with your friends. On any given day, go with what you feel, not with what you think you should be doing in that situation. Because what you feel on any given day will bring you through processing that next stage of those emotions. And sometimes the processing of the emotions happens when we're not consciously thinking about them. And sometimes it happens when we are sitting in periods of silence and meditation and introspection and reflecting on what's happened. But I very much never restricted myself. I had many people telling me how I should be dealing with it. You know,
so dangerous. Yep.
You should be doing this, and, you know, don't go out, and make sure you don't talk to any other boys because then you're not going to process the divorce, and like you shouldn't be dating, and you shouldn't do this, and you should, and you shouldn't, and you should. And none of that was useful because whatever I did, the series of events that unfolded as a result of that decision were all things that I do not regret for a minute because they've taught me so much about myself. But if I keep doing something and it keeps coming up and I keep finding myself in a shit situation, I also have the self-awareness to then stop and observe, because in retrospection is where we get the most profound lessons. So if you're going through it right now, remember that everything in this life is temporary. And so don't sit in the permanence of what you're feeling because it will pass. But also don't be afraid to feel the depths of the pain. even when it's uncomfortable and even when you'd rather run 100 miles in the other direction.
Because if you avoid it, it's still going to be there.
It's still going to be there. But when you actually deal with it, to deal with it means that you can then release it.
Correct.
And when you release it and you feel so much lighter, like there's a weight lifted off your shoulders, then the parts of yourself that truly make you happy can emerge. And that was the reason why you had to go through that process in the first place.
Beautifully said.
Thank you.
Now, Dee, can you tell everybody where they can find you on socials and whatnot?
Oh, yes, many different places. And you know, it was funny, actually, we didn't even touch on the fact when we got off on such a tangent before when we were talking about, you know, growing up in an Italian household, that like you and I both did similar things where because we weren't allowed to do so much with boys when we were younger, we both ended up in cabaret shows where we were on stage talking about sex all the time. We didn't even get to that part of it, but it's so funny, right? We both do the same things. Like literally, I remember the first time I went on, you know, stage with my show, Two Brunettes and a Gay, and it was all about sex and you know, even being gay and all the rest of it. And it was like my parents had no idea that I spoke about that stuff, and then here it was.
Here it is. Everybody can see it.
Buy a ticket. And you did the same thing. So I think that's a perfect answer as to what happens when you bring your daughters up street.
They end up on stage telling everybody. Yep.
Telling everybody about it. They can find me on social medias under my name, Deanna Kangas. Obviously, for singing as well. I own Voicehouse, which is an adult singing studio. So if you've always wanted to sing and never had the time or opportunity to do so, check out Voicehouse, Facebook, Instagram, Google Voicehouse as well. We're there. And my cabaret show, Two Brunettes and a Gay, that's online as well. So there's many different places you can connect with me.
Brilliant. Thank you so much for that awesome session today and talking all things Italian, love, animals and whatnot. It's been fantastic to see you after the last couple of years, and now we're all caught up. We need to do this more often.
Definitely. Thank you so much for having me. It's been so much fun.
No worries. Ciao, Bella.
Bye.
The Catchalorette with friends near and far, from heartache to catfish and sex toys. The Catchalorette and friends. See you next time if you dare.
Bank of the West is offering the 1% for the planet checking account. It gives back to the planet at no cost to you, and there's no monthly service charge with any deposit per statement. Only from Bank of the West. Learn more at bankofthewest.com/1%. Additional conditions apply. Member FDIC.
Love this podcast? Support it and sponsor today. Simply head to AuscastNetwork.com for details.